everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening for a very special event. My name is Elizabeth Casillas, and I'll be your host this evening. I'm so thrilled to welcome you all to the launch event for The Boat Not Taken by Joanna Choi Kalbus. And here's a bit about the book. Spanning a century and two continents, The Boat Not Taken is a deeply moving memoir tracing the journey of Joanna, who fled war-torn North Korea with her mother, a fiercely independent young widow in search of the American dream. But unknown to Joanna, their journey was also one away from a long-buried family secret. You can buy this book now at WTAW's website. Link will be in the chat. And we are so excited to continue Betty's journey with this important and necessary book by Joanna. And for those of you not familiar with Betty, Betty was founded in 2023 by Peg Alford Purcell. Betty is an imprint of WTAW Press dedicated to amplifying women's voices in literature on a mission to publish remarkable works by authors who identify as women. You can support Betty by picking up a copy of The Boat Not Taking and Betty's debut title, Take Me With You Next Time by Janice Hupschman at WTAW's online shop. Make sure to subscribe to the newsletter as well and follow along on all major social platforms. All this information will be in the chat. And so let me get started on introducing our guest this evening. Joining us today is author Joanna Choi Kalbus. Joanna received her PhD in Educational Administration from the University of California, Riverside, and has worked as a teacher, principal, and superintendent. Upon retirement from the California K-12 public school systems, she served as a lecturer in education at the University of California, Riverside. Joanna Choi Kalbus is a harpist and an annual participant in the San Francisco Bay to Breakers foot race. Joanna, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here today. And we are also joined by a very special guest, author Jimin Han. She is the author of The Apology, a Barnes & Noble Discover pick, named a Best Audiobook of the Year by Booklist, Best Book of the Summer by the LA Times, Vanity Fair, Shondaland, Apple Books, and others. She is also the author of Small Revolution. Born in Seoul, South Korea, she grew up in Providence, Rhode Island, Dayton, Ohio, and Jamestown, New York. Her work has been supported by the New York State Council on the Arts. And before we dive into the event, I want to remind everyone that we'll be taking questions throughout the event. And I'm also thrilled to share that there is a giveaway. Everyone who submits a question via the chat will be entered to win a copy of The Boat Not Taken. So please feel free to drop your questions into the Zoom Q&A section as they come to mind. And now, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Joanna to read an excerpt from The Boat Not Taken. Joanna, whenever you're ready.
Thank you for hosting this, Elizabeth, and thank you for all those people who are in the cyberspace. I don't see you, and I'm in an old style. I like to see you in person, and I wish I could, but here it is. But I hope that more people could be seeing me if since it's cyberspace and it's around the world and so on. So I want to thank Elizabeth and Jimin Han for being my conversation partner. And of course, I thank Peg Purcell for publishing my book. And she was an excellent editor because I feared that I would lose my voice, but no, she became Joanna Choi Kalbus and did an excellent job. And I see my cohort Betty member authors, so thank you for your support. I'm going to read from an excerpt titled The Train to Busan. 2 months into the war, my mother and I lived in temporary shelters. Our roommates were fellow war refugees. Every evening, Omai and I staked out a corner of the large rooms we stayed in. I helped my mother spread out our one bedroll. Then all the women gathered and visited, but their hands were never idle while they talked. Some cleaned, some mended clothes, and some prepared food. The newest problem was lice. My hair teemed with them. Ombai would sit me down between her legs and pick out one louse at a time. She squashed each between her thumbnails. Each blood splattered her fingers. Then she scratched the snowy nits off my scalp. One woman had a system for mass louse annihilation. She discovered that they liked to live in the seams of clothes. So she took her family's clothing and ran her teeth along the seams, chomping chatter like from one end to the other. I imagine crushed lice in cloth catacombs. Combating lice was an evening task. The first morning task was to pry my eyes open. They were so infected from the unsanitary conditions that I saw through a gray haze of pus. Overnight, the buildup dried and glued my eyes shut. I had no eyelashes left. Every morning, Oma used a bowl of water previously boiled and cooled to clean my eyes. One morning, Oma woke me up earlier than usual. We have to hurry, she whispered as she cleaned my eyes. Peran gaya de. What is Peran? I asked. We have to flee from here. The Reds are gaining ground. It is no longer safe. She collected belongings. Crowds milled around the railroad station, pandemonium everywhere. I held onto Omai's free hand. With her other hand, she balanced a large bundle of our possessions on her head. She led us toward a monstrous black locomotive fuming in its track. Men shouted orders to whoever would obey. Old people shuffled as fast as they could. Some children like me were quiet, others were boisterous. The babies were tied securely to their mothers' backs. The front railroad cars were already packed with people. We hurried and made our way to a car toward the rear of the train. Ajumani, come over here, she shouted a man younger than Omai. He helped her with her bundle as she climbed aboard. Then he hoisted me up beside her. The boxcar filled up fast. We moved to one side. Each family huddled together as more people were shoved into our already packed car. With the exception of the aged who sat on their family's possessions, most of us stood. The large rail car did not have any chairs or benches. I felt suffocated, standing with my face pressing against people's chests or backs. I felt the heartbeats of those around me. The stench of sweat and urine stung my nose. I panted, breathing through my mouth. The train jerked forward, the lurching conveyed to all the cars. The only air and light came from the open door of the boxcar. I peered out between people as the train chugged along. My cloudy vision painted the passing scenery of fuzzy gray, a blur of gable roofed houses, farms with thatched roofed huts, and orchards, and oxen plowing fields. With a shrill blast of its whistle, the train entered a tunnel. Eyes wide open, I experienced an empty blackness. The dark magnified the noise of the train and the smell of the surrounding bodies. The train clattered on and on. Finally, it stopped. Outside, vendors on the train platform were selling their wares. Nebes haseyo, buy my pears. A man with a basket of fruits called out. Be means both pears and stomach. I knew we didn't have any money to buy a pear. He might as well have been selling his stomach. His southern dialect sounded strange. Where are we? I asked my mother. Why do these people speak so funny? We are in Taegu, halfway to Busan, our destination. When we got off the train, I pulled on my skirt. Oh my, 오줌 넣어야 돼, I said as I squeezed my legs together to forestall the need to urinate. Omai looked around. With lifted skirt, an old woman squatted on the dirt bank beyond the platform, urinating. My mother took my hand and led me over to her. I can't go here, I cried as drops slid down my legs. Omai took out off her outer skirt and shielded me from others. But they'll know what I'm doing. Go, Omai said. I did not even have a chance to squat. A river of ozum snaked a path on the ground. My legs spattered with urine. We headed back. Omai saw water trickling out from underneath the train. She crouched down and cupped her hands under the escaping water. Suddenly, a blast of white steam spurted from the spout and scalded her outstretched hands and arms. She reeled back. Oh my, I shouted. That steam signaled that the train was about to leave again. We scrambled aboard. Others examined my mother's burns and clucked their tongues in sympathy. They made room for us to sit on our bundle. Her scalded skin peeled off like old flimsy paper, and the raw flesh oozed. No one had any salve to protect and soothe her injury. I shivered as my own hands and arms were sliced by 1,000 paper cuts. We sat side by side on the reverberating bundle. You have so much pus in your eyes. Can you see anything? Everything is blurry, oh my, but my eyes don't hurt. I blinked hard, trying to get rid of the sticky substance. Each time I did, it stretched across my eyes like rubber bands. Unia, look up. I tilted my head and opened my eyes as wide as I could. I felt her breath on my face. She thrust her tongue into my right eye and licked it clean. Without a word, she did the same to my left one. The warmth and softness of her tongue caressed me, even when her burnt hands could not. The locomotive, dragging dilapidated boxcars full of refugees, arrived in Busan on a gloomy morning. It belched its dirty, exhausted passengers. Now what, oh my? I asked my mother. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so, so much, Joanna, for that beautiful reading. I'd love to now invite Jimin to join Joanna for a discussion about the book.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Thank you, Peg, and thank you all for being here. This is an amazing Betty Books crew. All week and before that, I've seen on social media people posting, and I love seeing Lauren. I'm so happy to see you here, and Lillian and Leah, so many faces. Thank you so much, Joanna. I love this book. My mother is in Joanna's generation, and I lost her in 2016. And I learned so much from this book. My mom didn't say a lot, but just that description about the lice and the hardship, I know like these details now because my mother had such she cleaned the house and she was obsessed with all kinds of illnesses. And I remember my brother had lice when he was in elementary school and her reaction to it. And I just my family, my mother in particular, was also from the northern part of Korea. And so this is, I feel like it's such a gift to be given these stories that resonate so much and fill in some things. There's some differences, very obviously. And I also love that this is not just about a mother and a daughter's bond. There's this secret at the heart of this memoir that is just so it's just really rewarding to get to when you read this whole experience. It really emphasizes this kind of bond that you have with your mother. And so I have some questions because I know we want to also get to all of the attendees' questions too. Um, Joanna, I'm wearing blue today because you have this
Hmm.
beautiful line in your book about Jung. And in
Yeah.
my book, I have a character named Jung-ah, right? But
Uh-huh.
even this was a gift. Like I didn't know this, that and just before we get to the first question, I just want to share this one part. Um, when you return to Korea and you see your aunt and you talk about the Chinese character. So in Korea, Chinese characters are sort of like the Latin characters, right?
Hmm.
For Jung. And it says here, does it mean love? Do you know that actually you get love? And um, you have those strokes mean heart and these strokes mean blue. I wanted to understand, but I couldn't put the two concepts together, heart and blue. Heart must have the same meaning in Korean as in English, I said. But blue is a color. Does it have another meaning too? And the answer is blue is the color of the sky on a bright day. When we have Jung, the heart is bright like the blue sky, he said, smiling. Jung encompasses love, but in Korean, it has a broader meaning: love, endearment, loving sentiment, affection, and attachment. It's just so beautiful, right? And so okay, so let's talk about your journey here as a writer. Because we have so many writers in this room as well. You were an educator for 35 years. How did creative writing come to you? Was it a natural fit? Were you always writing? Share a bit about the journey of writing this memoir.
Okay. When I first came to United States, I was 10 years old, but the parochial school that I went, the nuns put me in first grade because I didn't speak any English. So after about 3 months or even a little more, that they moved me to third grade. So the curriculum is more elevated, and so the sister, who was a third grade teacher, told us to write a poem. I'm still, so I wrote this. The cat ate a rat. Well, she gave me C minus. So there was no way that I was going to be a writer, writer. And so uh, I never thought that I was going to be a writer. It's not something that I aspire to. And I started writing because it's very hard when you suckled her, your mother's breast until 4 years old.
Mhm.
Finally, I rebelled and I told her, "Oh my, I don't want to uh, take your milk anymore." And she said, "I see what you mean. You eat kimchi." And,
And you have teeth. You
and
have
I
teeth
have a
before.
teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I slept with my mother until the day before I got married. So we have a very close bond, and some people might think it's perverted, but I missed my mother so much when she died on January 17, 1996, and I wanted to to commune with her, and so what I did was I would journal, I would talk to her
Mhm.
by writing, and so it wasn't meant to be published. It was just writing, and I had a timeline all I knew was very skeleton timeline that she was born in 1905
Mm-hmm.
and my uh, she got married when she was 19,
Mm-hmm.
and then my first brother was born in 1925, and and then my second brother was born in 1933, and I was born in 1941. But I needed to fill all the details, and so that's
Mm-hmm.
what my and
Mm-hmm.
so over the years, and that's how I started my journey as a writer or wannabe writer. So, asking you if it was a natural fit, no, but it was an organic journey because as I wrote and discovered things, it
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, changed it from being a diary to
Mm-hmm.
something more uh, meaningful, and I feel that I needed to write her story
Mm-hmm.
for my progeny and of course
Mm-hmm.
her progeny.
Yep. No, I think that's wonderful. And I love the section where you write about being the older child in in school, like full of,
Yeah.
first graders, and you are and how they were so kind to you, right? Because they didn't make fun of you wearing the same dress every single day, because these are like 6-year-olds, and they weren't mean the way that the older kids were later when you describe the clothes that you were wearing, and that boy who made fun of you for the pants, the plaid pants you were wearing. Um, and my family came, we were immigrants too, and we came 20 years after. I mean, it was fascinating to read about your immigration story coming in the 1950s, and we
50s.
came in 1970, and how different that was. Um, and also this idea about uniforms and how you wished that you had gone to a school where the kids wore uniforms, because then the clothing wouldn't come under that kind of scrutiny, from and teasing from the kids.
Mhm.
So that was really moving. Um, so I really like that idea that your writing came from this diary and this trying to keep your mother, sort of continue this conversation with your mother. I love how in the memoir you also talk about, and use a Korean word for that, how you were your mother's tale,
Yes.
right?
Tongre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just such a great metaphor. And it comes back around to the secret at the end of the book. Right? It's
Mhm.
such and of course, a tale tells you everything that the animal that the tale belongs to is feeling, and there you are, right there by your mother's side on this journey, going through all of these things, and the love, like the section you read about how she how she licked your eyes that were full of pus so you could see. My aunt has this expression she would say, and I bet there's one in English too, where once you have a child, a mother would take a needle in the eye.
Mm,
Like you
mhm.
can withstand that because you'd do anything for that child, even like take a needle like stabbed in your eyeball. That's the kind of intense bond that you had with your mother,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
And
that's what my mother's said, something like that.
like that, right?
My son Eric is now middle
We're
he's
middle-aged.
middle
Yes.
age, yeah. But when he was 5 months old, he had a seizure, and and
Mm,
and and she said, "I will eat dong," which means shit.
right.
If that is the antidote to his being healthy, so I said, I'm not going to eat.
Right. But it's
uh,
it's just the level of that kind of love and the
mhm.
care and the self-sacrifice, right?
Right,
That
right. Yeah, true, true.
that's so telling. And also the thing about like sleeping together on the same bed in Korea, you would sleep on the floor. You know, in that generation, you would
Hmm.
sleep on the floor on a number of blankets and together, right? All the women
Right.
would sleep, yep, and all of the men. So that it's not the same thing. You don't have your own bedroom. It's very different
Very different. Yeah.
than the
Hmm.
way that it is here. So, right. So that's absolutely your mom just continuing what she knew to do,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and wonderful late night conversations come out of that, right?
right.
You know, I really love that when I go to Korea and visit my relatives. So tell us a little bit because it took you also, I don't know if everyone knows this, 29 years to
Hmm.
find your publisher, to have this book come out into the world. Were there particular challenges? What did you face along the way that kept you going? And ultimately change this diary into a memoir that could be shared with everyone.
That's a very good question. The first answer is that I couldn't let her go.
Mm-hmm.
By letting go means that I would have to publish the book.
Mm.
So I don't think the word persevere is the correct word. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have any problems with writing, but it's
Mm-hmm.
the all the emotional content that I had to deal with in my writing journey
Mm-hmm.
that I could I it prevented me from shall I say the decision. I couldn't decide. I just could not let her go
Mm-hmm.
for that. And um, you know, it would have been easier if the timeline and is just very factual, but like scientific stuff with no feelings and emotion, but it isn't so. The,
Mm-hmm.
the main character, my mother, uh, some fiction writers say that their invented character become become different, and they have to just follow that character's actions. And
Mm-hmm.
and my story is true. It's not invented, but my mother became a, a different mother at one point, you see. And
Mm-hmm.
I have to resolve all those things. So the writing process, it seems to me, is that sometimes it was agony. At nights, I would, in lucid dreams, I try to resolve these well, interruptions in my writing about her. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's sometimes when it's ecstasy and realizing how much she loves me. And
Mm-hmm.
so, so I probably could have gone longer if it hadn't been for the intervention of the publisher, Peg.
How did you and Peg meet?
Yes, well, I submitted my manuscript
Mm-hmm.
to WTAW Press. I have to think hard and Google that. What does WTAW mean? There must be some meaning to that,
Mm-hmm.
and why there were our words. And it certainly
Mm-hmm.
fit my memoir because um, by writing, I got connected and know the depth of my mother's love for me. So,
Mm-hmm.
so, and then we had to wait a hell of a long time. I submitted right away, and then it wasn't due until December, but I submitted, I think it was September or so, and then after that, and they all the thing, and then
Mm-hmm.
and finally, an email came and said that I was one of the finalists. I said,
Mm-hmm.
hallelujah. And then
Uh-huh.
I kept my fingers crossed, and each day I would open the email and see if there was any news. And we, that was a limbo experience there. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and then another email came and said
Mm-hmm.
that I was not the winner. Well, it is what it is. I tried. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah, so I said, well, disappointing, but that's okay. And then another email came,
Mm-hmm.
and then and then and then it was from Peg Alford Purcell,
Mm-hmm.
the CEO herself, and she she started a new imprint, Betty imprint,
Mm-hmm.
in honor of her mother,
Yeah.
Betty,
Mm-hmm.
and invited me, and uh, there were other invitees
Mm-hmm.
to join the Betty imprint,
Mm-hmm.
and she offered me a contract. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it was founded the year that the first generation, my generation of being Betty's, the Betty imprint, and we have a motto that we focus on publishing books by women for everyone,
Yeah.
and it's a collaborative endeavor, and I'm so glad that I have this. I see the faces there, the
Uh-huh.
member authors, the cohort, because I use my age as an advantage. I milk the heck out of my age. I because my technology is my downfall. Every time I go to Google, I do this mantra: Google is my friend. Google is my friend, hoping that it will be nice to me. So I have all these author members
Mm-hmm.
that have diverse talents. So I know each one, which one that I want to go to when I want to do such and such, which one that
Mm.
I want to go to when I want to do such and such. Like they all know which how I have they have been supporting me in our endeavors. So that's how it came, and here we are. I wrote a
Yes.
book, but I think the acknowledgement page is the most critical one in knowing how the book got developed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and because writing is you have to do it alone. Nobody can do it for you, but publishing it takes a village, and I
Mm-hmm.
have and Betty Imprint makes it possible for us to have uh, all our cohort working on all of our books.
Yes, and many people now able to know your story and your mom's story. And what you were saying, what you referred to, reconciling, is the secret, right? At the heart of
Right.
it. Discovering your mother's history, what you thought about your mother, and then your role in that, which is just so amazing. Um, I is there did the book change a lot once it was accepted for publication? Did you end up reorganizing, reordering any of the chapters, or did you get any feedback that way, or was it pretty much what you submitted?
I think it's pretty much I submitted, but the process that went through, I did not realize how rigorous it is.
Mm-hmm.
Peg wears many hats, and one is being a super editor. And
Mhm.
as I said, I was worried about losing my voice, not
Mhm.
literally, but but writing, because sometimes when I had a workshop, and
Mhm.
people, you can't do this in a Korean based book. You never call your brother by their first name, especially if
Right.
they're elder brother. You just so my oldest brother, I have to call him Kunopa, big
Yep.
brother, and the
Mhm.
second brother, who is 8 years older, is called 작은 오빠, little brother. So
Yeah.
when a non-Korean person who doesn't know the protocol uh,
Uh-huh.
would critique my piece,
Mhm.
well, one person would say, put instead of my saying, "Big brother, will you help me with this?" I'll just make it up. It says, "Hey, Mike, will
Right.
you
They
help
want you
me
to
with
put give a
this?" Yeah,
name.
so
Right.
she would put the given name, and
Yes.
that loses my author's voice. But Peg was very, very gentle about that. So
Yeah.
um, uh, I think that it was shaped all the after she went through, then one Betty have to do some kind of another reading,
Yes.
editing, and then there's proofreading, and I think there's a third one which I remember. So it went through a
Yeah.
rigorous thing, but uh, 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 I'm grateful that they refined it, but without
Yeah.
me losing my voice and what I intended the, uh,
Yes.
to write.
Peg's a wonderful, not only is she an amazing editor, but she's a phenomenal writer, with her own books. And so, yeah, so she would understand that whole sensitivity to what was important to you. And not to worry, Sarah. Hi, Sarah. I am not going to give away the secret. I just keep mentioning it because it just blew me away. So for anyone who doesn't have the book, you have to
You
get it.
won't. They
Read
won't buy
it.
the book if you mention it.
I won't mention it, I promise. Um, Okay, I know we want to get to your questions, so I want to make I'll just quickly make a comment because you brought up language, and a lot of their Korean words are actually being added to the Oxford English Dictionary all the time now, from the strength of K-pop and K-drama, and amma is not there yet, but I've been seeing it pop up a lot. The UMMA spelling of it as opposed to the EOMMA. And I noticed you use the phonetic spelling too. Um, you are using oh my, which I asked you about in our earlier conversation, because I have not heard that. Usually I call my mother Amma, right? But in your book you mention 어머니, which oh my kind of comes from. 어머니 is like saying mother.
Mm-hmm,
어머님 is like saying dear mother. 어머니 is like saying mother.
mm-hmm,
Oh my is like saying mom, but that is again like the northern dialect is oh my. And I think in
mm-hmm.
the South they say amma. And we get all our K-dramas from like Seoul, so it's all amma. Um, so I learned that, but I have heard because my family is from the northern part of the peninsula, they have said at times 할머니, which is 할머니,
Yes.
right? But they'll say 할머니 because that's just, it's kind of like saying, like, as you said, Joanna, like ma or something that you might say in the South versus mommy or mom in the northern part of this country, perhaps. But it's just a way that you say mom. So I was so happy because at first I didn't know that, but then it resonated with me because I did know that. I knew Halmai a little bit. So it's just fascinating to see the ways in which you use references to Korean words from that part of the peninsula that I hadn't heard before.
Yeah, it's like in that TV series, Big Bang Theory.
Yes.
Sheldon called his grandmother Meemaw. So,
Right,
so
right. There's all kinds of
yeah,
things.
yeah, and
So,
I want to praise Peg because
mm,
she, we had to go through. Oh, that was a killer for me. All these tracking things, a red line, green line, and all that, and
yeah,
she suggested uh, your spelling, not your spelling, UMA, because she must have done her research and
yeah,
see that
yeah,
most people would put UMA on it. So when I gave my rationale for oh my,
yeah,
then she approved, and I got to keep my voice
yeah.
again.
So
So yeah.
wonderful.
Then when I went to Seoul to take my mother's clothes because
Yeah,
Confucian uh, uh, philosophy or it says states that
mm,
you have to burn the deceased's clothes so that they can have something to wear wherever they go. And so
mm,
I went to to Seoul in that same year in May. She died January, and I went to May, and it's been a long time since this is only my second trip since I
mm,
came to United States in 1950, and so
mhm.
and the Seoul people knew right away that I wasn't Seoul person because of my
Mhm.
dialect and also ancient words. I
Right.
said, "Where is your Pyonso,
Yeah.
which was restroom in
Yeah.
my old days, in the olden days, but they got rid of that word because that was derivative of benjo in Japanese. But I was
Right.
still speaking. Uh, uh, I thought I was speaking Korean by saying uh, that word. So it's an anachronistic language that I'm speaking. They think maybe they should I don't know what they should do. I don't know, but you're right. It's just I don't feel very
Mm.
belonging there because of my inadequacy in
Oh, I think they
language.
would understand. Yes,
Yeah.
no, I think they would. I think they understand. And I know Chris Lee, the novelist, has said that that's something that when people from North Korea come down south, people know right away that they're North Korean because of their word choice. My parents also used a lot of words for vegetables. What do you call an onion, Joanna, in Korean? What did your mother call an onion?
Onion,
Do you remember?
onion.
And then, Elizabeth, we should go to the group, right? I'm really hogging. I could have my own conversation with Joanna. It's called Yangpa in Korean, but my parents, because they grew up with under Japanese occupation, they continued to call it tamanegi,
Oh,
which
that's
means,
the Japanese word, huh?
yeah. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that's true. Uh-huh.
right. So
My
it's all
mother said
different.
it's just pa.
But that's for green onion.
Oh, but the round onion. Oh, yeah,
Round onion?
yeah.
But that could
Oh.
be too. I mean, we can have a whole Korean, we'll have a Korean
Okay, let's move
conversation.
on, huh?
Okay, I'm sure there are people, I have a million other questions, but I'm looking at the time and I'm sure you all have questions. So shall I throw it back to Elizabeth and
Yeah, thank you both so much for that engaging conversation. Now we're going to move into the audience Q&A section. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. I'll get started with some questions that have already come in. First up is Joanna. What was the most challenging part of writing this book?
What is the most challenging part of writing this book? Uh, the I would say it's a struggle within myself of dealing with the content of what Peg would say material, because it's so personal, and my mother is gone, and I have to try to reach out to her. And as I said before, that my writing journey, my life's journey, shifted. It's like a river that is flowing, but it met some disturbances, and and I didn't know how to resolve that, and also, how do you put your gestalt emotion that you feel into a to writing, into words? Are there enough words to convey how I feel? And so the emotional struggle of dealing with without my mother, and to help me to fill out her life, was the most uh, one that I had to deal with. And then structurally writing it, also, how do I write a story that I'm going to regress to back to, um, did not know the craft of writing, so I went to adult education at in my local school district, and they had a writing course, and the uh, the first thing the instructor said was to get a plain piece of paper and write and map out your streets, where your house was, or you lived in when you were a child. Well, I have no, I know the gable roof house surrounded by gates, gates, but I wouldn't know what streets there are, and so on. And and they were going, the instructor was doing a chronological life story from birth to wherever you are, and I couldn't use that structure, because it's almost like Bach's fugue. There are incidences or experience or things that come in the entire context of my book. So I had to put it in 5 parts, so that I can do the writing that would that the readers can follow, and I just wanted it to be more in depth, and display the deep learnings that I came as a result of writing the book. I don't know if that answered your question, but um, that was the one that I put more emphasis and time and thought and reflection.
Yeah, thank you so much for that thoughtful answer. Next question starts. This discussion about word use in Korea is making me think of time travel. Joanna, I'm wondering how you went about researching and writing the early parts of your book about your mother's life before you were born.
My mother was a great storyteller. She's a multitasker. So when all the chores are done, and usually, we had holes in our socks, holes in our panties, and so she would she would be sewing, but then she says, "Did I tell you about such and such?" And so the portions that I didn't witness and the portions that go back when I wasn't born are the stories that my mother told me.
Thank you so much. And next question, did you have any realization about yourself after you completed this book?
Oh yes, yes. Um, I wanted someone to ask me this question, but I'm going to ask myself this question. That I will answer your question. I wanted someone to ask me, what do you want readers to take away from your book? So I'll ask myself that question, and each memoir is about one family's personal journey. They're unique and individualistic, but there are broader themes that are universal, and that every memoir encompasses that universal themes. And the one that the the Pusan one, there is the theme of how world events affected one family's life life, and other themes like love and so on. So I would ask the reader, did my memoir change you and how? And my takeaway from writing the book is that the most valued word in the lexicon is the word empathy. I am still a very judgmental person, but having written this book, reflecting on it, confessing all my regrets, really talking to my mother to resolve. Well, at one point, you know, I even didn't like her and all that. But the word that I learned that the best and most valued word is empathy. Does that obliquely answer your question?
Beautiful. Thank you, Joanna. I have another question for you here. If your mother were alive to read this memoir, what do you think she would say about it?
It wouldn't have happened. If she were alive, the book would not have been written, because I think all daughters or sons, at least for me, I know she will die, but I don't even entertain that. I think I just wanted her to live forever. So I would not have written her book, because she was right there. She was my historian. Anything I need to know, I just have to ask her. So the book would not have been written.
Beautiful. Thank you. And there's another question coming in. Did you realize when you were a child and teenager how much she sacrificed for you, how hard she worked, or did that realization came later in your adult years?
Oh no, I realized that from the very beginning. That's why I worked at being a good student. And she had to go be a janitor, and she worked for being a janitor at the piano store. So every she got paid every weekly. The boss man would deduct, I don't know, $2 or what have you, and so that she can buy a piano. I never seen one like that. It must have been particle board covered with uh, 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 plastic with all these little cowboy with a lasso imprinted on it. So, because she says that that the Koreans who are Yangban, Jimin knows what that word is, the upper class, uh, uh, the, the, the child has to learn to be a pianist. And
Also,
then yeah, and then and then she had to take on more work because then I added harp being a harpist and I know how hard it was for her. And I said, I wanted to make money so that she doesn't have to work. So I knew it from the beginning, her sacrifice for me.
also, I mean, I just want to say one quick thing. You describe in the memoir that she was very transparent when she told you that she recommended you go to UCLA
Mm-hmm.
instead of Mount St. Mary's. She didn't just say go. She was a mother who really gave you the reason why that you would become a nun if you went to Mount St. Mary's because you were that devout and that sensitive to who was around you. So she knew you, so you trusted her. I thought that was really great to have that in there because it showed that, of course, that's why you didn't just blindly listen to her. You listened to her because she sounded reasonable. This is where you ought to go,
Mm-hmm.
to give yourself all these opportunities, right?
You're so articulate. Yes, that's what I wanted to say.
No, no, I'm just chiming in because I really love the
Yeah,
book, so it's
but
easy. It's easy for it to be that, to add that. Thank you.
yeah.
Beautiful. Well, that wraps up our event this evening. Thank you so, so much to everyone who joined us, and a huge thank you to Joanna and Jimin for being part of this wonderful, wonderful event. We encourage you all to pick up a copy of The Boat Not Taken. It's available now. And thank you again. We hope to see you all at Betty's future events. Make sure to follow Betty on Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky to keep up with everything that's going on and sign up for the newsletter. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Thank you.